Why did they make it so difficult?
Can you not see it?
That's better now.
There must be some way out of this.
It's better now.
It's much better now.
Better now.
It's much better now.
Yeah.
I don't know why you thought you would keep on. Now that everybody knows, from your head down to your toes, you really did wrong to lock me up in the asylum. You knew I'd get out one day. Yeah. You knew I was coming after you. You knew one day I'd settle the score. I don't know why it's so quiet here, but yeah, you done me. Solitary confinement is not meant for me. The Thorazine and all medication made me into a zombie. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I use my psychic power to track you down, and I tracked you down. I tracked you down. You seem to think that I won't ever come back, but now I'm. That was me you waved to on Sunset. I saw you there. Some old BMW. Then light it with you, going to check on your mom's house. Don't think that I forgot for 1 minute how you delivered me up to Satan. And I did object because I'm not just like you. I have a point of view. You have no right over my soul. You have no right. I know you're mind controlled and your soul is gone. I know you're just a servant of darkness. I don't know why the asylum. You knew I'd get out one day. You knew I was coming after you. You knew one day I'd settle the score.
Greetings in the name of the Most High. Okay, well, the quest for truth seems to have been an amazing thing, because as people have tried to suppress the truth everywhere you can think of, it seems that what's happening and what's happened is that it's kind of like a prophecy that you find in the Bible that says, where Jesus says, everything held in secret will be shouted from the rooftops. And that is clearly where we are today. It's being shouted from the rooftops, and it's absolutely, it's okay. So, I'm going to deal with this collateral damage. Okay. So the collateral damage is the public is not ready for the truth. Understand? They were not prepped in grade school. They were not prepped in college. And I was just thinking about, from childhood, all the lies that we were given to take to understand as our reality. All it, and I was in a dream when I was confronting these people. I said, they're all lies. You're all liars. You're all liars because you've sold out to the lie. You can't reverse yourselves. You can't say the truth. You have to die for your lie. You're going to die for the lie. That's a good title. I think I'll use that as the title. You're going to die for the lie. And you've misled, children and adults around the world pretty much forever with all your propaganda, all your lies about this place. Because all your lies about time and space. All your lies about, about everything, from race relations to the rules, to the rule of law, to, the idea of different countries, sovereign countries. And now we see, the big, huge, lately lies, the whole point of the economy, of the Trump economy, is to bankrupt everyone, to destroy the economy, which is another set of lies. As I've just watched the stock market gain parity with where it was before Trump got into office, and how the tariffs are, from India today has gone to zero, gone away. So there's no tariff between India and the United States. But that's on the political front. But, and then, of course, from the liberal perspective, all white people should be killed. And that's basically another lie, because it's trying to set blame of white people for all slavery in the world, which is untrue. And so there's more lies. But then again, these politicos, and there are many on the right or left. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, but I call balls and strikes. Okay. And the way I see it is that if you bring 10 or 15 trillion dollars of business into the United States, there would be an upsurge in the labor market, and there would be more value placed on labor, and it would be a boom for the economy. And just doing math, that you would be better off if you brought 10 or 15 trillion dollars into your economy that created, 10 million jobs, let's say. And, because of demand, the cost of labor goes up. And then, of course, people are able to pay their bills. Now, I've heard some stories. I talked to a friend in Albuquerque, and he was telling me what a hard life he had as a wage slave. and how hard he worked for just a wage that could not pay his rent, that could not pay for his food. So there's another lie when they start saying peace and safety, and they start saying the economy is good, don't worry about it. That's the time I think I would bail out, because the crowd is what? Always wrong. So now, I'll turn to something, I'll say something on the other side. So when people can't pay their bills, they're going to respond by trying to group together with other people that can't pay their bills, and then they're going to try to overthrow the regime so they can have a better, more fair wage. You add on top of that the social engineers. Now, hear me well. There's some of you that I've talked to that, and you know who you are, about George Soros and the CIA and the overthrowing of America and the whole point of the one world order and eating bugs and Klaus Schwab and the right now the focus is on Washington State and the idea of a new pandemic, which would be a plandemic. It's all planned. If there's another pandemic, it is done by the WHO, by the World Health Organization. It's done by the UN. It's done by the gatekeepers, the hidden rulers of our world, what they never tell you about when you're in school. And so what they're trying to do is lock up legislation around the country, state by state, that states that if there is such a pandemic, whatever, that all authority would be ceded to the government, and that people could be forced injected, forced into concentration camps. All rights will be gone until that. This is a Marxist wet dream until that crisis is over, and then they're engineering the crisis. You don't know that because that's not the way you think. That's not the way you were taught in school. So you just assume that the news media, which is mainly CIA and intelligence business, right? It's all intel operatives. There are no news people anymore. They're gone. So all they're doing is spouting the lies and propaganda about our world, about it's for your safety. Wear the mask for your safety, distance 6 feet apart, and all these other commands that were meant to, basically turn you into a stick figure of yourself and turn you into a slave, ultimately. And it goes further than that. That's just conditioning. And then it's accept your wage, accept your place of living, accept that your future is a dorm room, accept the fact that you'll have no family, no children, accept the fact that this is the vision of the New World Order, accept the fact that man is looked down upon, accept the fact that they're trying to start, or they will, this little program they're running now is to let Darren Chauvin go from in Michigan. And okay, please be quiet. No. And they're basically threatening to riot if they let an innocent man go. They're saying they found evidence to prove his innocence. I don't know much about the case. I know that I consider the whole news cycle around the riots of 2020 a complete joke, completely laughable. As laughable as the politicians that try to convince us that there's some kind of principle at hand. There is no principle. I also get a great deal of pleasure out of watching them say they're going to go after the traffickers, which are the pedophiles and the pedo murderers, and they're going to go after them. Yeah, they're going to release those Epstein files. I get a great deal of enjoyment out of laughing my ass off at the people that are perpetrating the whole thing. And now we're talking about 1.1 million children missing since the Biden debacle of immigration. 1.1 million children missing. And make a statement here. They might find some, but the majority of them are dead already. Because the purpose of children is to harvest them like, sex toys. First there's sex and trafficking, then there's murder and adrenochrome. Or processing plants for processing children, for processing the precious drug adrenochrome, which they say that rumor has it. We have no concrete evidence on any of these conjectures that I make, except for the fact that you would have a lot more evidence if people didn't die. But they die when they're in the way, and then the government says, we're looking hard for those children. We're looking high and we're looking low. We're looking for them. The same amount of children go missing every year. Where was anybody then? Too busy looking at your smartphone? So, it's a shit show, and it continues to be a shit show. And the main reason why is because the leader of the shit show has come to lie, kill, steal, and destroy. To lie, to kill. And the main sacrament of this society we're in is murder. I find it very interesting that we be bringing up the topic of murder on a time where the Menendez boys, the Menendez brothers, are being resentenced and are eligible for parole. Now, that may be a big stretch, but I mean, eligible for parole as of, I think, now. I don't know if they've been resentenced or it was a news item yesterday. And I find that interesting. That takes us back to Beverly Hills, which is probably one of the most evil places on the face of the earth. I guess, well, you're in, it's from a subjective perspective, so I suppose. And therefore I'm disqualified to really give you my opinion on it. But since the documentary of Dark Side of Society, I just speak a little bit about that, but this podcast is not really for those of you doing forensic digging about, films, or you collectors. It's really just an ongoing now thing, just because I have a gift to speak and put these things together, and I'm exercising that gift that God gave me. So, so bear with me. We all struggle together here at the Zeph Report, and I've been out here a long time, out of the loop, in the desert, the 40 years in the wilderness. And, nobody's seen, no matter what I would do, if I, I'm a audio engineer, a mixer. I master albums, things like that. I can master all recordings, and do a lot of film work, with sound and with, as a writer and whatnot, just my general thing that I do. And, it was like, escaping. I guess it was another version of John Carpenter's Escape New York or Escape LA or something. It was like the whole place had turned into one big psychic network. And I don't just mean, Beverly Hills, I just mean society. Beverly Hills being, a symbol of, that includes, if you're talking about the West Coast, you got to include Bel Air, Malibu, and the West Side, Santa Monica, all that stuff, where the more expensive the homes are, the more the occupants lie about everything. And I've just found this to be really an unfortunate truth. They lie because they don't want to get the wrath of their neighbors and or the government on their back. So they say, well, you should shut up. If you know what's good for you, you'll shut up because they'll come after you. Well, indeed they have. And, they got close to getting their way several times. But at the same time, I wouldn't trade that. I've been embattled at war, in a war. While they've been relaxing and having wine and cheese on the deck of their yachts, I've been at war, even on their behalf in some ways, because they're too traumatized to realize that they don't. Not only do they not deserve to be on that boat, but the boat is just there as a playground distraction for little babies, for little children that don't know shit. You put them on the boat, and you don't have to mind them. Give them a boat, give them a ticket to Hawaii, give them a house and up in Park City, or give them a ranch out in Wyoming, and they won't be a problem. And what would be a problem, Zeph? What would be a problem, Dumbo? Let me think. What would? I believe in the Bible it's referenced by a scripture, Matthew 18:6, that says, any of you that hurt one of these little ones, that means children, who otherwise would come to me, that means Jesus. It would be better that you would have a millstone tied around your neck and you were drowned at the fucking bottom of the sea. Expletive mine. Okay? And the karma is, the society that hurts its children, or rather, look at it another way, the society that cannot protect its children, like, the USA. And why would that be? Because the elites don't want it. They've always had free reign over the children. They've always been a commodity to be used up, to be murdered on behalf of, their power, their God, their sort of Proverbs 114 association of a collective. And if you want to do business, I'm watching, Trump with all these big business people here on the financial station in this morning, and his speech to the businessmen of Qatar and all that. These guys haven't come clean yet. They're just excited about having a bigger bottom line and avoiding a recession and going into prosperity, which is also a form of revenge. Prosperity is vengeance now. When the side of the capitalist is total prosperity, building, rebuilding, bridges, roads, buildings, establishing order in that way, that's revenge. But will they hold it? Of course not. Because they haven't course corrected, and they will not course correct. And so you start seeing guys like Trump with vast amounts of information missing from his rhetoric. So people think he knows the truth about everything going on, and then you hear him, and you realize, there's a lot of things he doesn't know, a lot of things that are kept from him. And with Biden, you're dealing with the Soros organization. Biden is Soros. So that's a whole other thing. And then so you might ask, well, if this is going so well, if this is so MAGA, if this is so much the golden era, then why isn't Soros, who's caused all the things that people complain about and voted about, why isn't he arrested? No questions like that allowed. Why is he not arrested? Why haven't they arrested Bill Gates if he's somewhat responsible for 30 million deaths, murders by vaccine to get the population down, which he says he wants to do through vaccines, which is on the record. It's on tape. You can watch it. Why is he not arrested? Why have their mayor of Newark busting into the ICE facility? Why isn't he in jail? If the other side did it, the Republican side, they would be in jail now. So what is this? It's a joke. You know, it's an illusion. No one has come clean about Antarctica. No one has come clean about when the Nazis won World War II. Nobody understands that. And yet there was my grandfather, you know, Mr. Beverly Hills, Mr. Running LA, Mr. Boss, Mr. Mob Boss, speaking fluent German for an uneducated guy. That's amazing. Of course, his lie was that he was an Oxford graduate when he never got past 9th grade. He's a good actor. He acted the part they wanted him to play, you know, and that's where I was introduced to the way things work in Los Angeles. I mean, you got to admit that the World War II period, 1942 through 1945, and then the period after that, 1945 through 1952, okay, was probably the most tempestuous time in a city like Los Angeles. Also, you got to take Chicago, New York, all of them. But I mean, that was when the mob was trying to take over LA. And, you know, there was a mob town for a while. And at the same time, you know, you had people in the know about things. They still managed to bring in Disneyland and establish Disney, one of the greatest moral crimes of the modern of the modern era, to let Disney be established as a pagan, God-hating kind of, you know, child-hating organization. And I wasn't surprised, because when I was young, I mean 5 years old, and my grandfather took me to Disneyland, and I met Mr. Walt Disney himself, because he just had made the submarine. That was like his big deal, his big ride. So he wanted my grandfather, you know, to ride on to take us on a submarine ride. So we were on the maiden voyage of his submarine, which was some hokey, stupid thing. You're just barely underwater. It's like being underwater in a bathtub, you know. And so you're on this submarine with proud Walt looking on like it's one of his children. And boy, was he happy to have moved from, where did he move from? You know, the Midwest somewhere to warm, beautiful Los Angeles. And back in those days, it was warm and beautiful. There was a time where it was beautiful, but now it's just basically like everywhere else. Everywhere in America is pretty much homogenized as a hate fest, left versus right, and they think that's the answer, one or the other, when the answer is neither. But, you know, who am I to say? You know, I'm just, but I am, unlike the song, who am I to disagree? Sweet dreams are made of these. I know I'm a human being, and, you know, using logic and reason that were given to me by the Most High, I have every right to disagree. And if ever anyone wants to truly get on, you can't actually have a society that basically just lies to its citizens, which is what we have. And they lie about, you know, the power. Like, again, you ask the question, what about a George Soros? Why is he still walking around when he caused the riots? He pays for he buses people in. He pays for all the sort of left-wing riots against the state. They're getting ready for a big one with this Derek Chauvin release. So Soros will bankroll the whole thing. How come no one's complaining about that? You know, and the other thing is, why won't the people on the right, the racists, quote unquote, lock up people on the left so they don't burn the city down? What is the problem? And it's because it's all lies. You know, I mean, in a sense, in a spiritual sense, both sides are on the same side. You know, if anything gets too good, if anything gets to where it actually helps the people, destroy it. If anything ever gets to where people have their own prosperity in their own minds, their own opinions, and that they're on a serious quest for truth, and they're learning about this world and what it really is, stop it. And let's focus on immigration, killing off the rest of the white people because white people are evil, created a perception created by the Soros and his gang of white old men. And just also, the reason they don't arrest Soros is because the Nazis won World War II. They were shipped in, I'll just explain myself. They were shipped into America under Operation Paperclip. And also, many went down to Argentina and South America too, but basically it was all one big connection. And all the scientists, all the science work that went on, all the advanced technology and all that became absorbed and used by and influenced the US, which was not as far along as the Germans were. And the other thing is that the Nazi represents one wing of a secret society, the same society that the big men in business and in the world and in America all have to be a member of. So it's like welcoming brothers from long lost brothers over an Operation Paperclip, giving them the best jobs and the best places to live and the best of everything, because to the victor goes the spoils. But do you think they'll ever teach you that? They'll teach you that Trump is a Nazi, or that white people are Nazis or whatever, but they won't admit that basically we're under the Nazi plan now, and it's going along very well. Very well. And neither side, in politics, if you're on one side or the other, you'll never figure it out. You just think, well, if Trump wins, then you have your country back. Or you think if the left can overthrow the Republicans, then you have your country, then you have democracy is saved. You don't realize that neither one has anything to do with any of it. And that's the brutal truth, okay? Everything you know or think you know, everything we think we know has to, when you find out the truth, it really makes you mad. You're like, gosh, I just really, I don't know what to do with my life now, because, everything that I thought is wrong. And how do you repent? How do you change course, in other words? How do you convince people to look at the truth rather than be, reacting to the lies? And the answer is you can't, they're going to react to the lies in a predictable fashion that's fashioned by the think tanks like the Rand Corporation or the Ford Foundation or the Carnegie Mellon Foundation. And that's who's going to call the shots, because they program people's minds with television, movies, internet, especially TikTok, all of it goes to programming people that you live in a certain kind of society where you don't. And even if you feel like you're relatively peaceful and relatively free, you're not free. You're all slaves. And, we all share that. And in order to be free, you have to be free up here. It's not so much where you live, even how much money you make, although that can be a big factor. If you don't make enough to put food on the table, and you're working your butt off, then obviously you're experiencing the sickness of this society to begin with. It should never be. People keep saying, like at one point I was a Democrat because they kept saying they're for the little guy. And we're for, just before I really walked out of LA and out of that whole conundrum, I'd like to go back there. I mean, it's not really, I don't know. And well, now it's not safe at all because the documentary is a security problem. I mean, it's just basically about how I became a writer. It's really not to be some earth-shattering thing like, the Diddy revelations or anything like that. But I find that the timing of it coming out to be very interesting. And I do believe in the power of movies. In fact, of all the art forms out there, I believe that movies are, and any of them, silly comedies, slash 'em up horror films. I like political and societal irony. Like you saw in Society, I really just continue to love to write about the foibles of the rich, and their what do you call it? To me, the really wealthy people that have done it the system way. I'm not talking about people that inherited a trust fund or people that, usually kids that inherit a trust fund, the money goes before they're 30. It's gone. That's because people don't know how to manage anything. But that's because of the, diseducational system and everything else. So, these are just truths out there. But I do like to write about the foibles of the rich, because to me, that's where the muscle is, like what they can do to you. Like for me, they could arrange with a court that I'd be sent to prison for 30 years on something I didn't do, and say the alternative is you have to go to this mental hospital in the Midwest for a minimum of 2 years in order to satisfy your, diversion and probation. And if anything goes wrong, you don't go to court, you go straight to jail. Understand? Yeah. Was that bought and paid for by Mommy Dearest? Yes, it was. How convenient. How convenient. And what was the problem? I had perceptions about reality that were not, about the way things really work, that people knew, but you weren't supposed to utter. And I didn't know that just because I was always a freewheeling guy, always had intelligence, and I realized there's a big secret going on in society. That secret is still going on today. That secret affects every aspect of society. That secret is destroying every human being on earth. That secret has destroyed any kind of real joy or feeling of satisfaction that anyone would ever have. As long as that secret's not addressed, then my prediction is the entire world will collapse either through a quick nuclear war or just devolve into chaos from two political sides fighting, a civil war, I suppose. And, that will be, gee, you could have had it all, right? But no, you have to be right. The lies that you learned when you were in school are true. There's nothing like that going on. In fact, the basis for my being, released to my own recognizance, I had to renounce all these thoughts and observations and things that I knew in order for them to let me go. There is no Satanism. There are no secret societies. There's no human sacrifice. There is no pedophilia, for God's sake, no. There is no harming of children. There is no trafficking. None of that's real. I was just sick. I was nuts. And I misperceived. So in order to have my freedom back, I'll sign whatever the fuck you want me to sign. Go ahead. Whatever lie you want me to sign, so I can at least, not be incarcerated. Thank you. And, because of that, sort of, now that really grows you up fast. I mean, guys are in prison, guys that are in, the problem with the mental hospital thing is they have an arrangement that they hit me with where they can disappear you and you will never appear again. They can make you sick, really sick in the hospital. And then, they would, when the insurance runs out, they would have to transfer you to a state facility or they have no intention of letting you go. You would just be there for the rest of your life. And that's what we've all been threatened with. And that's why a lot of my peers committed suicide. It was because they were faced with, once they blew it as teenagers and were shown to not be in service to the New World Order, right? And not be in service to the new, Ivy League school, and not be in service to the big crosstown rivalry football game, to not be in service to all the bullshit fraternities and bullshit sororities, which are just little training grounds for being obedient to the beast, which is basically based on all lies. And so if you're unwilling to, it's not really playing a game, it's changing. You must change. And they have to see it and believe it. And even then, if you've rebelled in the past, they're probably going to kill you anyway in a skiing accident or a hunting accident. And the reason why is because, well, once you cross over the wrong way and rebel, I'm not sure we can trust you. And they can blackmail you from 6 ways to Sunday. And they can have all that on you. And basically, you step out of line, they just push a button, one button, and it's enemy of the state with Will Smith all over again. And so long as that's in place, do you really have a country? Can you really, have this sort of, MAGA thing? You think that one side is going to win? Let me explain what it would take for one side to win. Now, you young people who want to tell me about how great your religion is and all that, just consider this. If you want a solution, one of you has told me the only solution is at the end of a gun. Well, that's the way things work. That's right, sir. That's right. Good observation. But let Zeph add the final observation. And with that gun, you must kill every single one of the opposition, including all of yourselves, in order to make peace work, in order to have an honest society at this point. So most people don't want to die. So that's where the movies come in for me. It just doesn't really matter what the story is. It matters who the characters are for me. The story is fine, but I want the characters to be revealed. I mean, I want to write about the guy who believes in duty, honor, and country all the way. And I want to write about the guy that hates the country and all human beings or whatever. I want to, they got me. And I know there's some new viewers here who've come over from the documentary, and all I can say is I've been sort of talking on here for a long time. I may go to more of an interview format, but it's just been, just kind of constant updates. I know that when I was in the hospital, I was kind of at the end of life there, and I think people drew some strength from the fact that I kept going with the podcast. And I think I got in trouble with the nurses. I got flagged, I think, not treated very well. But I would just say this, that this is really, my process in storytelling is, we've got a few up on deck that we're going to be doing in the next year or two. And it's all about stories. The story helps me to really grapple with all this stuff, the concept of a story. And I think I was like a lot of you when I was a kid. It was the movies that always pulled me through, because I was generally really depressed, really depressed, and really felt, the brunt of bullying and just just people that were so arrogant about, their world and society, and, that if you were not sharing that with them, they would just look down and spit on you, make sure that you don't have a job, that you don't have a future. And I'm sure some of you have been through that. So the movies became a kind of I guess, an escape, and then the decision to become a writer became a way, a direction to process a lot of how bad I was feeling. Because I mean, the depression, they kept putting me on antidepressants and and drugs and different kinds, and that did not really help the matter. A couple interesting parallels is that since the Menendez case is up right now, and it deals with Beverly Hills, my criticism, I saw all the docs. I saw the Ryan Murphy doc. I saw all the different, versions. Funny, they all came out at the same time. And, but they left out, there's one glaring error in all of them. And that error may or may not be fixed with the Menendez brothers themselves. And that is that, it's my view, okay, this is my opinion, that the mother and father were hooked up to a much bigger network. Because when there's trouble with the sons that, that someone is going to spill the beans about this network. See, the thing is that the funny part about the whole gay community to me, I mean, I'm leading in, don't worry, I'm getting there. The funny part about the whole gay community is, so the gays, you mean all the married couples with children, all the people lined up at Disney for the next Disney flick. I mean, what do you mean? You mean the gay community of West Hollywood, as opposed to the gay community of Beverly Hills, of householders? The big vast network that's intercontinental, that involves connections to all these people are connected all over the earth. And what people? What are we talking about? We're talking about the connection of, they say pedophile, and they're trying to make that legal, which was the point of, I guess that was the point of LGBTQ, was since, gay people have the right to be whatever with gays. So that wasn't the point. The point's more the trans push, and I think the pedophilia push, to make it illegal to harass a pedophile. But pedophilia is not the end of the game. M is. And what is M? M stands for murder. That's the end of the rainbow. And believe me, I got no problem with, I worked in the arts with, all kind of guys, doing their hair and makeup, and other guys that they were in love with guys and chasing them and back and forth. We never had any problem. Never had any problem. Never a problem. I never felt it was my place to lecture anybody about, who they're with or what they're doing. I mean, every one of my friends, no matter what their configuration was struggling with this life and trying to not be depressed. And that seemed to be my fight, and depressed. There's a lot more to be said about all this, but I think we've run out of time now. Anyway, do see the, eventually, I think, well, there's been some very positive reviews about the film. There was some negative ones, a couple, at a couple of festivals, but then Now seems the timing is different. And I can tell you this, I did the best I could with saying, what I could in a small period of time, and I just, Larry Wade Carroll, the award-winning director and also a co-writer with me, he did a masterful job in the edit in terms of, because we had to really, with our lawyers, we went through and made sure we had the best lawyers in the world for fair use and things like that. We went step by step with them for months, delaying the movie's release because we wanted to make sure that legally we had it in the bag. And then we got the golden letter from our attorneys. That letter is what our distributor called gold. And on that basis, he felt comfortable with releasing the picture. But, the people worry about getting sued and all kinds of things can happen because, this is, look, there'll be people that are very offended by this. And there will be people that are like, feeling like they're getting a cup of water in the desert and they're just about to starve to death for hydration, and they'll feel like, that I wasn't wrong. I wasn't crazy. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. It is going on, and you knew it. Most of the people I know that, and like our abuse was so ironic, is that my brother and I were like abused as children. There'd be like people that were, hanging around, and there were orgies going on in the house and different things. And some of these people were predators. And they would come after us. And what happened to me is that shut me down. So if I ever even thought someone was after that, I'd start going into war. You know what I mean? But I mean, in the early, you develop a psychic ability to see what's coming around the corner. And at the same time, if I just couldn't, die in peace if I didn't say the truth about my, this background was supposed to be this stellar background and, war hero and, big industrialist guy and, all philanthropists giving away millions of dollars to charity. And, who would ever sully that name? It was all bullshit. It's all lies. All the philanthropy was to cover up the truth. I mean, I'll just tell you, sorry for those of you who wanted to believe. We're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. We all fall short. None of us is good enough to have your name on a building somewhere, because you sacrificed a few pennies. I mean, come on. I mean, if they were that easy, shit, then the other option is, and then, the other is if you have muscle, which, obviously was there too. So people just disappear if they're going to act up. There's dirty work that goes on in a town like Los Angeles where people that are troublesome just disappear. Just like they do in Vegas. They go all those holes in the desert out there, just people that got in the way of something or other, knew too much about something, and they wound up dead. And I don't know how many survived out of my class. I know that they all turned on when they seemed like right around puberty, a little after puberty, they all became like hive-minded Satanists, all connected to each other and all working for the same goal, which was to eradicate the lambs, people that weren't on that page, and to basically take over the earth and dictate to people what they want people to do. They became total psychopaths. Proven. I reached out to one of them who had become a photographer because I always felt he was like he had been a friend as a child. Not even a word back. So I think, what I wanted to do is just send a chicken, just an image of an emoji of a chicken, buck, 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 that. But I said, it's not worth it. So I just, deleted. I realized, who do you think you're fooling? He can't talk to you. It's funny. Even now, people that I had known can't talk to me. Not because of me. I don't do anything. I don't bite. But because they're worried about themselves, because they're cowards. And they're worried what somebody else will do to them if they get their name in the wrong list somehow, some way, an associate of me, and they're in the hopper, and they don't have any firepower, meaning they're never going to say the truth. They're going to do what their parents did, which is kick the fucking can down the road. And so here we have the same fucked up, stupid, backwards, know-nothing society, which is a bunch of, arrogant hotheads going nowhere, but trying to see, still with their having one big pissing contest. And it's learning nothing since the playground and learning nothing since the sandbox, behaving the same way as adults. And there's my optimism comes in when I'm applying myself to an artistic project of some sort, usually screenwriting and, writing. And, I was trying to write my hospital experience, but that got too heavy. And I got sick a second time, and that time almost killed me. So I figured I was under some kind of psychic attack or witchcraft attack. Oh, they're there. They're in droves. And you're wrong to take all that shit lightly. That's a serious matter. If you come under their planned attack on you, that they can really change your life for the worse and steer you in the wrong direction. And you just have to be, that's why so many of us, are, the only reason I survived to tell any story was because of God, really, because of, the church has almost killed us. They're all jackals and liars and pedophiles and pieces of shit. I know that. Who would say something like that? And so hence I get in trouble. But when I looked around for more of the survivors, there might be one who became homeless, and he was handing out poetry on Topanga Beach down there in Topanga Canyon and next to Pacific Palace on the way to Malibu. And I heard he was still alive, but I never, it's like when I wanted to talk to Bryce Taylor, who wrote a book called Thanks for the Memories, outing Bob Hope and all these other people as child sex traffickers. And they would do it to blackmail dignitaries for political purposes. Yes, Bob Hope. Anyway, I read her book, and it was very accurate. And then she pulled the book off the market. You can't get that book for less than it's I don't know how much it would cost if you could find one. Usually it's a Xerox copy, okay? But anyway, it was accurate about Los Angeles. She had come from Woodland Hills. They sold her into sex slavery with, I don't know if it was directly to Bob Hope, but it was, to that system, okay? And she talked about, there was one scene in there where she talked about, I thought about this the other day. Here's something you guys would never even think about. So the Shriners, remember the philanthropist? All right, she says, this is her testimony, are having a ritual where they kill a baby and they steer the sacrifice to her because she's going to be she's a courier. She's somebody that goes back and forth to do her, to be under their control and blackmailing people, getting information, being a courier of information, things like that. And so they gave her the benefit of the sacrifice. Now, how can you associate the word Shriner with murder? Oh, you didn't understand? Well, see, you're going to have to go you're going to have to stay over the summer and take remedial classes then if you don't know about that. No, I put that out there because she got scared and ran away. And she was a very important figure. I think her real name is Sue Ford. But then again, it might be Bryce Taylor. No, that was her pen name. And she had named people. I believe she had even named my grandfather at one point. And she had named people that were involved. Because I met Bob Hope and his wife Dolores at my grandfather's house in Palm Desert on the golf course. I think I forget which club it was, but some club down there. And he would it was on one of the greens, so when he got to that green, he'd stop in and say hello. He didn't touch me, he didn't mess with me, it's just like, hello, sir. I don't know who you are, but hello, I was very young. Now, why would that, with that kind of association, nail it. It's really not.
I thought I had it on mute.
That's terrible. But, when you associate those two things, your own family with someone that gets fingered by now she didn't get sued for this book, which is interesting to me because, any of these people could have sued. Why wouldn't Bob Hope sue, her, Bryce Taylor, for mentioning that he was involved in pornography and sex trafficking? Why wouldn't that be sued? It was very curious. And then she quit suddenly. So when I hear that, I think, okay, they got to her. Pull the book and quit. Go do your job and we won't kill you. Because like I said, the references that she had with even like USC, the Dodgers, the USC dental program, which is another, that's almost like Antarctica. It's like, one of those kind of subjects. Even though she mentioned all that stuff about LA and celebrities, and why do they do it? The celebrities, to be a celebrity, they had to do it in order to then gain celebrityhood. So, but you won't find anyone talking about it, Reagan never came clean. Certainly, Gavin Newsom, came out the governors of California, and also Arnold Schwarzenegger never came clean. None of them did. They just worked with the corruption. They worked in the shit. They worked in the cesspool. They didn't try to make it better. They just tried to look good. So until there's a reckoning, and this goes out to all you young people that are struggling to put 2 cents together to pay the rent and still feed your children, I'm sorry. Until this is addressed, all these imbalances will continue. Doesn't really matter who the president is. It's the way the world works, unfortunately. The world is determined to create underclasses of starving people that will eventually overthrow the world and reset it once again. And I wish that didn't make sense to me. I wish that didn't make sense to me. And I told people early on the Zeph report, I told them, I said, you're going to have to drop that. Like the people in church around the Calvary Chapel and some of these churches, I told the brass there, I said, you have got to get this out of your church. That is The pedophilia, the human trafficking, all that shit, and all that muscle where you threaten people if they don't go along with the system. A good way to dispose of people and flush them down the toilet. You've got to get rid of that in your churches. God won't bless that. Instead, they become this big mafia, and now you've got Angel Studios involved, and everyone's playing nice, like, oh, that's the answer, a clean studio that doesn't have a casting couch. And I'm like, oh boy, don't even get me started. That's another pod. And I will see you good people soon. And whatever any comments, Pia can handle them. I right now I'm just have lots of things I have to do with our company. So I'm thankfully busy. I'm glad I'm not just staring out the window, but I'm having a time of it being a little bit of a counterculture guy. But I can't answer some of those, direct questions. But if you have a topic that you want to slip to me in some way or ask me a question that I can answer here on the air, then you get it to Pia, who's online there with Substack, and then she'll get me the question. I'll be glad to address it. That's a very efficient way for me to do it, so that we don't run out of time. Because some people write me 3, 4, 5 pages, and then 2 hours later I still haven't addressed them. And then I have to move on to something else, and then I drop it, and then nothing happened. So that's the best way to handle that. And with that, I bid you shalom. Oh, shalom to me does not mean that I'm an Israeli. Does not mean that I'm on one side or the other in the Palestinian conflict. I'm completely disgusted with Netanyahu, if you want to know the truth. And not that I got to separate, I guess, the spiritual from the political, the vaunted political, the political. And I won't make the blowjob sign. Okay? See you. Save me, Lord, from evildoers. Keep me safe from violent people. They are always plotting evil, always dividing us in quarrels. Tongues are like deadly snakes. Their words like a cobra's poison. Protect me, Lord, from the power of the wicked. Keep me safe from violent people. Plot my downfall. The mad have set a trap for me. They have laid their snares, and along the path they have set traps to catch me. Save me, Lord, from evildoers. Keep me safe from violent people. My sovereign Lord, my strong defender, you have
protected me in battle. Lord, don't give the wicked what they want. Don't let their plots succeed. Don't let my enemies be victorious. Make their threats against me fall back on them. May red hot coals fall on them. May they be thrown into a pit and never get out. May those who accuse others falsely not succeed. May evil overtake violent people and destroy them. Lord, I know you defend the cause of the poor and the rights of the needy. The righteous will praise you indeed. They will live in your presence. Save me, Lord, from evildoers. Keep me safe from violent people.